Hello there, you're listening to the Box Office Show. I'm Ryan Hill.
And I'm Dylan Johnson. Today we're going to be talking about the box office numbers from last weekend and our box office predictions for this upcoming weekend.
And Cinema Showdown is making its return. We are going to be bringing on the biggest panel yet to argue about what is the best action sequence / set piece in the entire Mission Impossible franchise.
Let's go ahead and start with our box office breakdown for August 22nd to the 21st. In first place, making its theatrical debut after a hit run on Netflix, K-pop Demon Hunters with 18 million. Just didn't quite crack 20, but still, for a movie that is just on Netflix and has been on there for a while, it came in first, which kind of blows my mind.
It's pretty incredible because that was also based on just 2 days of showings. It wasn't even like the full weekend.
Crazy.
And apparently AMC didn't even show it because they're beefing with Netflix. So yeah, it was just a Regal and all the other non-AMC theaters, 2 days, and it brought in 18 million. And it's already been available on Netflix for like 4 weeks. That's insane. So
yeah, very popular.
Great decision there to make some extra cash. Easy money. All right, in second place, Weapons with 15.4 million, bringing its domestic total to 115 million.
In third, Freakier Friday with 8.9 million.
The Fantastic Four, First Steps, 6 million. It has now crossed 250 million domestic.
Which is not enough. After that was The Bad Guys 2 with 5.1 million.
Nobody 2, 3.7 million.
Superman, 3.4 million. It has now crossed the 600 million worldwide mark.
Honey Don't, debuting to 3 million.
The Naked Gun, 2.9 million.
Rounding out the top 10, Jurassic World Rebirth, 2.1 million. It is coming in to 850 million worldwide. So definitely not going to be $1 billion hit, but still made more than enough money to keep me pleased for picking it on my roster.
Certainly. Let's do our box office predictions for August 29th to the 31st. 2 new hits coming out. Darren Aronofsky's Caught Stealing and the rom-com dram, thank you, Mom, The Roses, starring Olivia Colman and Benedict Cumberbatch. Ryan, Caught Stealing. Is it gonna blow people's expectations away? Is Darren Aronofsky gonna have a box office hit on his hands?
Probably not, but
Probably not.
Let's hope it gets to double digits. I think that would be good for it.
Sure.
And then it should beat out The Roses. But then we also have Jaws, the 50th anniversary. It's returning to theaters. It'll be in IMAX screens. So it could take the number one spot. Or Weapons could retain the crown. Again, K-pop Demon Hunters, it was just one weekend, so it will not be back this weekend. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether it's a holdover, a 50th anniversary re-release, or one of these new films that takes the top spot. Do you have any ideas of which will take the crown?
Probably Caught Stealing.
All right, we will see. That would be good for Aronofsky. But let's go ahead and dive into our Cinema Showdown, our Mission Impossible. We'll go ahead and throw it over to ourselves and our guests. All right, and now we are back with all of our contestants for the Cinema Showdown. So I'm going to have each of you, we're going to just go one by one. Have you guys introduce yourselves with your full name as you like to be credited, just so we can start having the audience pair voices to names, because this is the most people we've had on the podcast. So, 6 at one time. So it's a lot. So we'll start out with Kirk, which will be a familiar voice, especially on Mission Impossible podcasts.
Hey guys, how's it going? Kirk Simpson, excited to be doing something that's never been done before. Just part of 6 dudes talking Mission Impossible.
Love that. All right, we'll go to Alex next.
Hey guys, Alex Flores here. Happy to be back, Ryan, and to now be on with Dylan. Huge lifelong Mission Impossible fan. I live and breathe this stuff. Nothing gets me going more than Tom Cruise risking it all for pure cinema. So happy to be here.
Wonderful. Hunter.
What's up? I'm Hunter Vance. I am happy to be here again, but instead of talking about The Walking Dead, Mission Impossible, which is the greatest action franchise of all time, and one of the big reasons why I'm into film. So I'm super, super excited to get into this.
Beautiful. And then rounding us out, Dennis, your first time on the show altogether as a
Correct.
Cinema Showdown. Very bold.
Yeah. Hey guys, Denis Vuko here. Thanks a lot for having me. Super excited to be here for the first time. Yeah, same thing. Been a big Mission Impossible fan. Not since the beginning, I would say since Ghost Protocol, but yeah, excited to see what you guys have to say about all this.
Dude, so what's everybody's favorite Mission Impossible movie?
Oh, Fallout, absolutely.
Also,
Fallout,
Fallout.
yeah,
Yep.
same. I will also go Fallout.
Pretty sure. I mean, we're all Fallout, right, Dennis? Or are you different? Are you Ghost Protocol?
Guys, I'm Dead Reckoning Part 1.
Whoa.
Very
Bold
fair.
choice.
Very
Okay.
bold.
That's my second favorite.
I picked my scene because I was, and because I really like it, but also because I was sure some of the other ones that I had up there were going to be picked, and none of the ones that I thought were. I was sure the helicopter chase from Fallout was going to be on there. And
Ooh.
nobody had that.
I thought that would be up there as well. I don't think did nobody choose?
I don't think anybody picked that.
No.
No. Yeah, nobody chose, and this is crazy. The Langley heist from the first one.
Yeah.
Dude,
I
I
was
was
about-
surprised.
That's kind of egregious how that's not chosen.
I was a little confused, because we all had to pick one that wasn't already picked, but it's like I agree with one of you guys, so it's like,
Whoa.
it's like, am I supposed to debate on one that I think is great, but it's not the greatest to me? Since it's like, so I don't know, but we'll see.
Oh, interesting.
That's the tough part about the Cinema Showdowns is having to have a clean argument.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I considered going with the motorcycle finale from 2,
Mhm.
just to really throw
Just curveball.
a fireball
Yeah.
in there. I couldn't bring myself to do it.
How
I
about
was like
Would have taken
considering
a lot.
the submarine, but I feel like it's too
It's
soon.
really great.
It's too soon for me.
It's really great, though.
It is really good. And the
It is.
biplane.
how about before Ryan comes back, everybody share their first introduction to the franchise?
Yeah.
Oh, that'll be good.
Yeah.
Whoever
Yeah.
wants to go first.
I saw Ghost Protocol at my gym, had like a cardio theater where they just had a room with a bunch of treadmills and they would play movies. And I walked in like 20 minutes before the Burge. And then
Oh,
That's
thought
crazy.
that was the sickest thing.
Did
And then
you
saw
run
everything else
when
in
Tom
theaters.
Cruise was running in the sandstorm? Did you run with him?
Absolutely. My hands were
Yeah.
daggers just like his, just going crazy.
Perfect.
it's good. I'll go next. I watched the first movie, I guess, like when Blockbuster was still around, rented it, watched it, skipped the second one, and then watched
Good
the
skip.
third one with Hunter, believe it or not, in
nice.
here.
Nice.
And then I went to see Ghost Protocol in theaters, and that was like ever since then it was like, oh my God, like this is the best thing ever.
Hmm.
Nice. Hunter, your
Yeah.
first movie you watched?
Yeah, it was 3 with Alex at his
Okay.
place. Yeah. Dude, what was
Wait,
it? Like
that was a
10,
long
12
time
years
ago.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Good start. And Dennis?
Yeah.
For me, it was also Ghost Protocol, but it was very weird because I watched it when it got on cable, so a year after its theatrical release, and somehow I was like 10, so I was very like dumb. But it was when Avengers came out, right?
Yeah.
2012, and I saw somehow since Jeremy Renner's in both the movies, I thought they were somehow connected. Impossible. So it was a stupid thing. So yeah, I watched Ghost Protocol, but Rogue Nation was the first, and then all of them was the first that I saw in theaters.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I saw Ghost Protocol in theaters when it came out, and I went with my family. It came out in December, I think, and we saw it on New Year's Eve, and it turned midnight while we were in the theater watching Ghost Protocol.
Sick.
That's
It was kinda
awesome.
cool, yeah.
That is really cool. What a way to bring in the new year.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Burj Khalifa.
I remember seeing it in the theater, and I was young when I saw it. And I remember when it started the jail scene. I was like, dude, what is going on? Like, why is it in Russian? Like, where am I right now? I thought it was the wrong movie or something. And then got going, I was like, all right, here we go.
Dude, Alex, do you remember before we saw Fallout in theaters, we were watching Ghost Protocol at Best Buy?
At Best Buy,
With the
yeah.
Magnolia like home theater thing.
Yes.
They were just showing it. We're just sitting there watching it.
That's
It's
crazy.
awesome.
Yeah.
Peak film, Fallout. Yeah, Fallout's the best one.
Yeah.
I mean, unless Dead Reckoning. Dead Reckoning's not a bad choice. It's not a bad choice.
No, that's
I saw
really good.
Fallout 3 times in
Dude, me
theaters. That
too. Me
was
too, Kirk.
fantastic. I went alone, and then I brought my mom, and then I brought my friends. I was just like, everybody I know needs to see this movie.
That was in my it was my top 5 movies of the year that year was
Yeah.
Mission Impossible Fallout. It was just so good.
Mm-hmm.
Unbelievable.
All right. And so for the Cinema Showdown, the prompt is we're trying to figure out of the entire Mission Impossible franchise, what is the best action set piece / sequence, whatever that means to you. And feel free to go full spoilers, do whatever you need to do, talk about whatever you need to talk about in order to strengthen your argument. Because Dylan and I, we've seen all the films, we're big fans, so we'll know all the sequences you're talking about. But you may or may not find it advantageous to paint a picture with your words, try and refresh our memory on why your sequence is so awesome and incredible and beats out all of the rest. But yeah, just remember the main thing you're trying to argue for is your definition of what the best action set piece is and why your selection is like the most representative of Ethan Hunt's crazy espionage adventures. And then yeah, obviously again, we all like love the franchise, we love these scenes. There's no objective right answer. And Dylan and I will try and be as impartial as possible. We may have our favorite movies and whatnot, but we'll try and judge based on the strength of the arguments that you guys put forth. But I mean, yeah, we just want to put that out there. We are subjective, we're human beings. So maybe use that to your advantage. I mean, you all know me at least, so you may be able to appeal and play to my preferences, my biases, stuff like that. But none of y'all know Dylan except for Kirk. But so that one, it may be more difficult to try and pinpoint what he'd be after in the best action set piece. But yeah, just emphasize the strengths of your scenes. Try and pinpoint the weaknesses in the other scenes. Again, even though they're all great action scenes, you're trying to win here. So get passionate, get heated. It's all in good fun, but we do want to put on a good show. We'll have a good clean bout and everything. But yeah, so with that, let's talk about the actual structure of the showdown. Dylan, you want to walk us through that?
All right, so the basic way we've set it up is that everybody's going to have a 2-minute opening statements. We'll go in order. You'll present what your action sequence is, and you'll kind of give your overall argument of what you want it to be about and why you think that is the best action set piece. And it'll be an uninterrupted 2 minutes. We'll give you a time warning when you're getting close to the end. And once everybody goes, we will have 35 minutes of moderated debate. You'll each kind of just have an open platform to attack each other's points and to raise your own counterpoints and whatnot. And we will do the best in our ability to kind of moderate the debate so that it doesn't get kind of muddled over the fact that your audios are kind of like overlapping and whatnot. And if the debate is kind of getting heated towards the end and we want to keep it going, there is a possible 10-minute extension that we could add on to it if we think that we want to hear more about what you're saying. After that, Ryan and I will moderate 10 minutes of question and answers where we will raise questions to the individuals that we want to ask about what you've said so far and kind of delve further into what the points you've made. And then once that is over, we will give you each 1 minute for a closing statement where you will kind of sum up your argument, raise any final counterpoints you want to raise, launch any final attacks you want to launch, and make one last push to sell us on your action set piece, at which point we will enter our deliberation phase. Ryan, do you want to explain the point system and how it works?
Yep, so we only have 2 judges, so we want to try and avoid the possibility of a tie. So one way we're going to try and do that is we're just going to rank each of you, our own personal lists. Like we'll talk about it, Dylan and I, but then we'll just do our personal list. And then based on your ranking, your placement within that list, you'll get a certain amount of points. 4th place would be 0 points. And then 3rd place 1 point. So on, and the 1st place gets 3 points. So hopefully that'll still, avoid a tie. It's possible a tie could happen, but we just want to see who is the cumulative winner. Whoever gets the most points between their placement on my list and their placement on Dylan's list will be considered the victor. So that is how it'll go for this time around. But yeah, that's pretty much everything. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns before we dive into it? All right, y'all are ready to get this going. Okay. So the speaking order is going to be the same order that you all were able to choose the selections, like whichever action set piece you wanted. And I just did that by doing a randomizer of your names. So our first speaker will be Hunter, then it will be Alex, then it will be Kirk, and then Dennis will be the final person to give their opening statement before we head into open debate. So, all right, we'll get a timer going here, a little stopwatch. So once you start speaking, Hunter, I'll click this, and then I'll try and give you like a 15-second warning in the chat. But yeah, and you don't have to go 2 minutes. That's just the upper limit.
I don't think I will.
Okay. But all right, whenever you're ready.
Okay. So, with my selection was the exchange and the Paris car chase from Fallout, and why I think that's the best one. So, what have we come to expect by now with the Mission Impossible movies? Ethan Hunt going rogue, and his moral compass, as well as amazing action set pieces. And you get all of that in this. It starts off with its unpredictability of just ramming the truck into the water. Already you're like, oh, okay. We didn't know this. So you're along for this ride that they're going on. No idea what's going to happen. And then they go to the motorcycles. His doesn't start. Another thing that's going wrong. So after all of that, okay, you get Benji and Luther still a part of the team. They get Solomon Lane out from the underwater, by the way. Such a good shot. Such a good shot. They get him out from the truck underwater. Rendezvous. Don't know what to do. And with his moral compass, okay, you think they're fine. They come together, all right? Boom. There is a police officer right there. And while I think all the practical stuff is great, it's this moment here specifically that solidifies it as amazing. It's his dedication to not letting an innocent person die. Immediately tells him, go away. She gets shot. And then just dead fire. Pop, pop, pop. Gets them all. But it's not done there. Okay? Now you have Ilsa. Another thing.
You are done there, unfortunately.
I'm done? No. I was going to yap.
So, all right. Thank you for your opening statements. You'll be able to continue that thread, I'm sure, in the open debate. All right. Next up, we have Alex.
All right. I'm just going to hope the cicadas aren't going off too loudly right now. So my sequence is the Burj Khalifa sequence. Couple things that why I think this is the best sequence, not even just the best sequence. I'm going to argue that this is the definitive Mission Impossible sequence, in my opinion. If you look at the franchise, we have the Langley heist, right? That's iconic. I think the only other piece that really like matches that iconography is the Burj Khalifa sequence. The setup to it is amazing. We have the crazy idea that we have to get outside of this massive building. It's the only way to go around. The bit where the glove hits the wall and he's like, "All right, like this is what we're doing." He starts climbing up. You're literally like clenching the whole time. Like this sequence has no guns. It has no fights, but the whole time you are on the edge of your seat. You're like you can't even breathe for air. And then the escalation of the problems going wrong, like the gloves go down. He gets in, he can't go down the elevator. He has to go around. It's just this constant rising tension that leads to just an amazing payoff of him coming around. I think it's also got some amazing like lines. The no shit, like the line's not long enough, and he jumps around the wall and goes through. That it's so good. And then Benji coming in right at the end, last minute. This is like the bow on top of that scene. He comes in and he goes, "Oh, what'd I miss, dude? You missed everything, man!" Like it. I think it's amazing. I think it's the best sequence. I think it's the most tense. I think it's death-defying. The stunt work, the camera work, it's beautiful, and I think it's the best sequence in the franchise.
All right. Thank you so much. All right, we'll head on to Kirk to hear your selection.
All right. When I was trying to figure out which one of these Mission Impossible sequences was the best to me, I thought about three things. I thought about the clarity of the stakes, I thought about how intriguing the characters were, and I thought about how fun the game of the scene is. And that's why my selection is the opera assassination from Mission Impossible Rogue Nation. The stakes are incredibly clear. Solomon Lane is somewhere in this theater, and oopsies, also there's an assassination attempt going on the Chancellor of Austria. The characters are incredibly intriguing. Ethan and Benji's relationship is fractured. We've just introduced the hottest woman alive, and we have no idea what she's up to. And she's in a stunning yellow dress. And we have these two heavies that are the most clear-cut, easily identifiable bad guys you've ever seen in your life. And finally, the game. The game is something that in this sequence may not seem incredibly obvious, but it's the moving light grids. They start out as just a little introduction. Obviously, theaters are automated these days, so they've got stuff going on, but they escalate into basic inconveniences for Ethan that turn into major ones when they interfere in his fighting, and eventually he not only powers through them, he actually adapts and uses them to his advantage, which shows his own adaptability as a character. And it finally ends in an impossible choice. 2 assassins, 1 bullet. So what does he do? He has to make his own choice and zag way hard to take out the target and incapacitate him to save his life. And that's why I think it's the best.
All right. Great stuff. You had 30 seconds to spare too, so great work there. All right. To round us out, Dennis, we'll hear your selection. And again, once you start speaking, I'll hit the stopwatch.
All right. So I picked the Rome chase from Death Reckoning Part 1. It is a scene that when I saw it the first time really hit me, I will say emotionally, because I got a little teary up when it started. First of all, the sound design in the scene to me was incredible. Every piece of note of music just bounces so well. But why I think it's arguably one of the best is because when you look at the action genre, and what defines action genre is a game of the cat and the mouse, right? It's all about chasing each other. And I feel like that scene perfectly took that theme, and what made this genre so exciting are car chase scenes. For many years, car chase scenes are like so defined and like in action set pieces. And I feel like how it was built up and how the characters also relate to each other. I'm a big fan of the Ethan and Haley Atwell's character, Grace. I'm a big fan of their relationship and how every single look they have between each other. Even when Ethan and Jasper see each other, there's always that kind of look that's like, I want to hunt you down, but I also like kind of trust you. And to me, it's crafted so beautifully, and it's also mainly shot on location, which was great. And I just, yeah, first time I saw it was really, really a big hit for me.
All right. Well, thank you for that opening statement. Wonderful stuff. All right. So we have all those selections out there. They're all from the, McHugh era, nothing from the original trilogy. So that'll be fascinating. And then we'll dive into our opening debate portion right now. It's going to at least 35 minutes. We'll see if we add on more time. So I think it's likely that we might. But yeah, take it away. Does anyone want to jump in first?
I'll jump in first.
All right.
So I will say the chase sequence in Fallout is better than the one in Dead Reckoning because it doesn't overstay its welcome. The Dead Reckoning chase goes on for a little too long, and that's my biggest issue with it.
Okay. I think I also would like to say that the Dead Reckoning chase is also, in my opinion, not the best chase in that film. I love that chase. I think it's fun, but I think even if you look at Rogue Nation's chase in Morocco, I think is comparable to that scene. I think there's a ton of chases in the franchise, and I think to say the best one, I don't know if it can be the best, you know, action sequence if it's not even the best chase in the franchise. So that's just something I wanted to point out. Um, yeah.
I'm gonna let Dennis defend himself, but I feel like I gotta come to my man's defense a little bit here. Like, come on now, that sequence rocks. Let's not be crazy now. Paris coming down those steps in the Humvee. Let's be real. That is an iconic image unto itself. And as far as staying too long, I mean, why would you want things to end early? But I will say, as far as some of our other excellent contenders here, the Burj Khalifa is without a doubt, I would say, the second most iconic image from the franchise behind the Langley. But just because something is the most well known doesn't make it the best by any means. If you ask somebody to name a pizza chain, they're going to say Domino's. Domino's is fine pizza, but it's not a specially crafted, handmade pie from somewhere that puts its heart and soul into what it does. And that's all I'll say on that.
That would be an excellent rebuttal if it wasn't something that they obviously put their heart and soul into. Like, I think yes, it's not the most iconic scene. And obviously, the Langley heist is the moment, but I think this is the moment that redefined the franchise. And I think we look at what it did. We look at the practical stunts, right, and then the way they shoot those practical stunts, and not to mention the tension, dude. Like you're on the edge of your seat the whole time. I don't know if any of these other scenes here, while they are exhilarating, while they're fun, I don't know if they give you that same level of tension and suspense and get you right on the edge of your seat that you're getting with the Burj Khalifa scene. I think it's the most the best one here.
I think it's technically brilliant, but I think it's emotionally a little hollow. I think you got 3 bystanders in that sequence that are stuck in a hotel room going, oh shit, Ethan's up there doing something cool, and not really involved other than, I don't know, retranscribing hotel door numbers. Come on now.
I agree with that. And to me, it was always like, it's such an iconic, and it was my introduction to the franchise too. But when you look at the stuff that followed after, to me, it lacks a little bit of more stakes. The stakes aren't high enough for what the scene provides. So when you balance the full thing, to me, it's not enough.
So first off, saying that they have nothing to do in the scene is ridiculous. Okay. Jeremy Renner is very clearly counting down the clock, which is another added part to the tension throughout it. Not to mention, we're not arguing, I mean, I think it sets up the other bits that come after pretty well. Emotionally, there isn't, I can't really defend that. This is a lighter scene, but I think the interactions between the characters and kind of how we kind of see this team interact for the first time, I think that does kind of add to it. And I think they are doing things. Benji has to change the clocks. I mean, it's all adding to it, in my opinion. I think the stakes are super clear and it's simple. It doesn't need to be complex. I don't need 3 different chases going on for this to be the best. It's literally just Tom Cruise on the side of the building and shot beautifully. And he jumps through. And have you seen the hit? Have you seen when he hits the window and then falls under and they have to grab him?
Look, it's pretty sick, but Jeremy Renner's is as useless as an appendix. He technically does something, but I can do without him,
Okay, if we're going to talk a little bit about useless, Benji's not entirely useless in the Opera House, but he's just there flipping through on a tablet for people's faces.
That's how he starts. That's the mission.
Why it is, but could have been anybody.
He's also flipping through faces on a sick-ass playbill that turns into a computer. I've never seen that before in my life. We also get him then to save Ethan's life by taking out the, most RoboCop square-jawed looking
Goofy
motherfucker
Goon
I've ever
1
seen.
and Goofy Goon
Goofy
2.
Goon 1 and 2 are my favorite characters. I'm going to dress as them for Halloween this year. Thank you very much. And then we get a clear introduction to the dynamic between Benji and Ilsa, which is an actual respect, but at the same time, still very mysterious because they're struggling. Goon 1 and Benji, she takes a shot, she kills Goon 1, but did she mean to? We don't actually know that until a little later. She's still
I don't know if there's much respect there with Benji and everything, because he still has some animosity towards her, saying that, oh, she tried to kill me and everything, and he's very upset later on after the scene that she's in the car. So
I think the ambiguity of the characters in that scene is kind of like intrigue, but I think it does knock it down because you don't know like exactly. It's a new character. I think that's a bit of, and I'm gonna go out and defend another person, but I think it does kind of level up the Paris scene because these are all characters that we know, and we get to see the interactions and kind of see the dynamics play out. Versus this scene is like an introduction to them. It's cool. We're kind of engaged, but we're not seeing, we don't know everything yet. So,
yeah, the super well established character, John Walker,
I mean,
who we've known and loved for 5 movies, right?
I mean, we are still seeing the return of, Ilsa come in, Ethan Hunt's morality at play, which is the theme of the film right there. I don't know if there's a thematic through line in the opera scene.
If we are coming back to the Paris scene, and I will might say something that might hurt you guys, and why I think Fallout is not one of the greatest. And I had this debate with Brian actually when we were shooting our film. Fallout is the movie that made me feel like this franchise is going towards a Fast and Furious vibe. Because
dude, I just got shot in the chest with a shotgun.
to me, that movie at some point felt a little too much. Which I love about the Mission Impossible franchises is like they're built and their sequences are built to feel really impossible, but with a side of, you really believe in it, right? And Fallout has some moments where I felt was like, this is too much, man. Again, now you guys can go shoot you.
I think that's crazy because you won the film. Your favorite film is Dead Reckoning, which is like I would say Dead Reckoning Part 1 and Part 2 are the closest we ever get to being so cartoony and Fast and Furious level. And I think your sequence ends with Tom Cruise like getting like escaping the train, right? With the subway that just
he
comes and hits
escapes
him.
he takes the steering wheel off. But that's not the goofiest part of that part. The goofiest part is him and Haley Atwell switching seats when the car is tumbling over on the yellow Fiat.
Which is not a knock. Like these are fun
No,
parts.
It is not.
I think that's a plus,
Yeah.
but it's definitely goofy.
Mm-hmm.
It is goofy.
It's like, I don't know, the bathroom scene when like they go like they cross the entire wall and the helicopter going and get into each other, like to me was just like,
Yeah, that goes so hard. Sorry.
Exactly.
don't get me wrong, it really does, but it's like it's just, I don't know, there's some way I felt like more the stuff in Dead Reckoning felt more structured to me, but again, it's just like personal opinion.
Sure. Here's what I will say about the Paris sequence that for me doesn't work as well, or at least with your argument, was that Ethan goes rogue. Ethan goes rogue depending on what perspective you're looking at the scene through. If you're looking at this scene through the perspective of the White Widow, absolutely he's going rogue. If you're looking at the scene through Benji's perspective, no, Benji's in on the plan to get Solomon Lane out, because otherwise how else would they have gotten Solomon Lane out, right? When it comes to the opera chase, there is a plan. The plan has to be thrown out the window when it comes down to the fact that he's holding a bass flute that's been turned into a gun, which rocks, by the way, and he only has 1 bullet, and there's 2 assassins, and there's no possible way he can get out of it. So that's the moral choice that he has to make in that split decision. He has to go rogue and take a shot at a head of state, which I think is about as going rogue as that you can get, just to get him out of the way.
I will say Ethan Hunt has 2 moral decisions to make in the Paris chase: the police officer and Ilsa, which is another wrench in the plan, thrown out the window. Ilsa's now trying to shoot and literally kill them at this point, and then you have that moment where they're just stop and basically just staring at each other like, what are we gonna do? And he runs her over.
It's pretty sick.
It doesn't matter. He's got to stick with the plan.
I would say if the argument was which action sequence does Ethan Hunt go the most rogue in, I would say it's got to be in Rogue Nation Opera House, because in the Paris scene, he is technically still on the IMF side and getting the CIA backing and everything. But that's not the argument. The argument is what is the best action sequence, and I got to come back. I got to just plug this back in, guys. That the Burj Khalifa scene is
It's
still
suspenseful.
It's still it's not just
suspenseful.
There's the action. Where's the action? It's just
not just,
suspenseful.
dude, he is running on the side of the building. He is running on the side of the building. We're getting Tom Cruise running vertically. Like, where else can you see that?
Everybody runs vertically. I think you mean
Well,
horizontally.
horizontally, vertically. You know,
I mean, at this
I don't
point,
use TikTok.
The London running scene was better in Fallout than in the Ghost Protocol. If you're talking running scenes,
Yeah, it was.
Well, we're not talking running scenes. We're talking him running specifically on the side of the building.
Yes.
And I will make that stance.
What do we learn about Ethan Hunt in the Burj Khalifa scene?
What do we learn about Ethan? We learned that he is adaptable and that he can be quick on his feet. And we really see him. I think it really puts him in a position where he has to figure out things on the fly. He has to problem solve. And that's where we're really seeing it. Where the problem solving of the missions, where we really see him. How is he going to make it happen? I think it's the most death defying sequence that we have here. Most exhilarating, in my opinion.
I will say, yes, I agree. But you get all that in the Paris chase as well. Multiple times, things go wrong. He has to problem solve in the moment. Oh, shit. Motorcycle's not working. Oh, shit. Ilsa's now shooting after us. Oh, shit. There's a police officer now. What are we going to do? Is instinctual, just superhuman traits kick in. So
I agree. I think the Paris sequence is a more holistic piece than the Burj Khalifa sequence. Here's what I will say against the Paris sequence: is I think it has a lot of ups and downs, and to me, they're a little sharp when they happen. I think you're going, and then you hit something like the cop, which makes for an impactful, like, oh, what's going to happen now? But it sort of like depowers you. Whereas every time that I've watched the opera chase and the opera sequence, I just can't look away from the start of it. I get drawn in, and everything builds and builds and builds until the zenith of the scene. It's a more traditional structure, which is not necessarily better, but it's something that I respond to more.
I think the stonework is better in the Paris sequence. I think the opera sequence has some pretty good fights, but for like I said, it's an amazing sequence, but I just can't. It's not the best. There's better fights. I think the buildup is a good point, but I just don't think the action in the sequence. I don't think it's there as the other ones are.
I just got to add, the sound design when Ilsa is right before she catches up to them and she's like just flying through.
Oh, driving the motorcycle through those pillars.
Those pillars, and you see
that rips.
Crazy.
well, in my opinion, why I chose the Rome chase is because it has the most complexity between multiple characters, but it all makes sense. You're never lost. Because it starts with Tom, Ethan chasing Grace, right? And then, what's his dude? Oh my god, I'm so bad with names. It's like that's why I don't do debates because I can't defend it. Stay with me.
Shea Wiggum's character?
Yeah.
Briggs's son?
There we go. Jasper.
Oh, that's a crazy twist.
We got Jasper chasing Tom. And then we got the police getting involved. And then Paris shows up. And then we are all these little pieces getting together to chase each other. And I don't know. I feel like in all the other sequences you guys did, there's maybe like 2 or 3 sides that link, but there's never like as much as here. Like here we got 5. And I don't know. To me, it makes more sense. And I just love that scene.
Mm-hmm.
I would say more. I just say sometimes less is more. And I think if we want to go, all these scenes have a lot going on, but sometimes there's really something about the simplicity. I feel like in each one of these scenes, you can get kind of lost in what's going on. Specifically, the Paris scene, I think there's so many different things going on. This is our first time seeing Solomon Lane in that movie. We haven't even been introduced to him in that specific film. There's all these different parts going on, all these different payoffs from 5 movies before, to where that scene can be a little confusing. I mean, it does make it awesome, but it does make it a little confusing overall as we're jumping in between all these different things. The Burj Khalifa scene is this one simple, clean, effective scene. You don't have all these different things going on. It doesn't need it. It doesn't need a motorcycle here, a boat there. It doesn't need any of that. All you need is the running on the wall. That's a joke, but that's all it needs. It's truly all it needs. It doesn't need to add all these different things. I think that's what makes it stand out. I think that's why it's the best one in the franchise.
I think if it was just Tom out there the whole time, then I might agree with you. But it does have these other things, right? They do introduce the sandstorm, which has nothing to do with that scene, but does come out later. They do have Benji and doing all the hotel room number something. They do have Jeremy Renner being Siri and doing a little countdown clock for no reason because he's just a suit. He's just there for no reason. So to me, that devalues that. If it was something like the submarine sequence where it's all right, we're locked into this character doing this specific task for 13 minutes, whatever, fantastic. But I think it devalues itself.
That is a good point, but I do think it is very focused. Even when I think each bit that is mentioned there, I think is adding to it. And obviously, the scene exists within the bigger movie, so you do have to introduce things that are going to be paid off later. But I think these other scenes, except for the opera scene, is pretty tied into the film without doing other things that have to pay off to another film or introducing new characters or things like that. I mean, your scene has a bit of new characters as well, but I think everything here is pretty contained, even if there is some intercutting. But we're still in the building.
The opera is a bunch of new characters, and I think kind of devalues it a little bit is that their entire plan of trying to stop this assassination, just, it's fine. Boom, car explosion 5 minutes after the entire scene's done.
I mean, yeah.
I don't think.
But, that's Mission Impossible, right? The plan never works until the very end.
Guys, I'm just trying to knock your point.
I know, I'm trying to defend it.
I know.
No, I agree. Here's what I say about the Paris chase, because I think it's some really phenomenal stunt work and it's some really phenomenal character interactions. I think the most singular thing about that scene is Ethan and Grace's relationship, because that's something that's really special and unique to that movie. I think the chase scene is done better in Paris. And I think that, speaking of Paris and Ethan's dynamic is basically a retread of John Walker and Ethan.
I will say, there's a little confusion. Paris, as in when we're talking about like Paris, sorry, not we're talking about like my Paris chase, or like,
I'm talking about
the character.
I think your character, your sequence in Paris is a better chase sequence than the one in Rome.
In Rome, Rome.
But
that's and there's also a character in Paris. There's a lot. That's all. The
dynamic and the difference, the juxtaposition between the character Paris and Ethan is, to me, just a retread of the dynamic between John Walker and Ethan, where Paris is the hammer and Ethan is the scalpel. We've already had that. If I wanted to see that dynamic play out better, I just watched the bathroom fight in Fallout, which I think is a superior encapsulation of that dynamic.
Fair.
Yeah, I think. Hold on, Yeah, I just think that again, the Rome chase to me is just a retread of the Fallout Paris scene, and I think the Fallout Paris scene is better than the Rome one. I mean, in the opera scene, there is nothing else like it in the franchise. That is a plus.
Thank you. I'm going to put that on the poster for my. I'm going to put that in my closing argument.
But I would say, what else? There's nothing like. I would really come down to the Burj Khalifa. I think we're underselling the filmmaking of it. Like, I don't know if you guys have ever seen the behind the scenes of how they made it.
Mm-hmm.
But it is truly phenomenal, and I think ever since then the franchise has been trying to top that moment. And I think if you're setting the line, I think if you're setting the line for them to try to reach each film, I think we watched the new one this year, and I'd still go, but is it better than the Burj Khalifa sequence? So I think that makes it a defining sequence, the most definitive one, in my opinion.
One thing I will give points to for the Rome chase, it is the funniest one out of all of our selections. It is the funniest and the most fun. While you can argue the operas is fun, there's just something about the Rome chase that is
Is the
It's
funniest
just
one.
like, yeah.
Yeah.
It is. Now allow me to argue why the opera scene is fun. I think the Burge has some really interesting technology stuff to it, but I think what the Burge lacks, or whether what it has too much of, is dialogue. The opera scene, mainly because a lot of this is happening during a show and people are physically separated, the only real dialogue happening is Benji going off in the air every once in a while. But there's no real countdown because there's no real uh, clock other than the one that we, the audience, knows about, that Ethan doesn't necessarily know about, which is when Ilsa pulls out that sheet of music and we see something's going to happen when this guy hits this high B flat or whatever the note is. And we don't necessarily know what that is, but we know she's just pulled out a big ass gun that she pulled out of a pipe assembled. We get two really excellent gun assembly scenes here that are really funny. And as far as comedy goes, no shit is a pretty great line, but I get that same like feeling of an emotional release and like empathy with Ethan when the control panel gets banged and Ethan's little lighting grid gets like raised up to the bad guy, and you just see this face on it, look on his face of like, I gotta keep fighting this dude. I thought I got away from him. Now we're being raised back up to him. In a similar situation when they're both holding the flute and they're standing up together, and then Ethan stops standing up and the goon just keeps standing up because he's a
goon one.
Goon 2, thank you very much. We established one is in the control.
Yes, one is in the control.
Exactly.
I think Burj Khalifa's funnier. The bit with the gloves hanging on the wall. That come on, and the no shit is the ending of that sequence, along with the Benji coming in at the end. I think if we're ranking comedy here, comedic, I think definitely Rome, but Burj Khalifa is got to be number 2 in my opinion in terms of
I will say
lightheartedness.
the Paris chase doesn't have too many comedic moments, but you can laugh at Sola because he's just a stupid character and goofy, and his whole "what the hell is he doing?"
Goofy
and just
Goon
trying to
3.
act all tough. Yeah, it's like, okay, but you're laughing at him, but it's not. So unintentional comedy, in my.
If there's any comments anybody made attacking your film that you want to address directly right now, now is the best time to do that. Is there any comments that you found particularly egregious that you disagreed with that were already made?
What do you think is the number one counter argument against your selection? And then rebut it right now.
Yeah.
I can do that. I want to counter argue. So there's been a lot of talk, a lot of underselling of this stunt work, of this scene, the lack of maybe some thematic characters or whatnot. But I would say we're not talking about themes. We're not talking about what scene has the best character. We're talking about the best action sequence of the Mission Impossible franchise. And with that, I have to go with the bird sequence because it is the most suspenseful, most intense. It has the most fun play of gadgets. You got the gloves being hanging on the wall. The just the like the sound effect of the hand coming onto the wall. The doo, dude, it's so good. Everything about that scene to me is so perfectly crafted that it doesn't need all these other things added into it to level it up. You just need the simplicity, and might have some other things around there to kind of make that scene flow, but it doesn't need anything else except for the simple action in the film. That might be my closing statement. I'm not gonna lie, but
I would just counter that by saying I think that the bird sequence is the best single entree in the franchise, but there are other sequences that are better meals. You can't just have a phenomenal steak. You can't just have a phenomenal main course. You need wine. You need atmosphere. You need a little music in the background. Maybe Puccini. Maybe a trip to the opera, I might suggest. Just something else to round out your palate and really make it an unforgettable experience more than a singular event.
I would say if you've ever had the beef Wellington at Hell's Kitchen made by Gordon Ramsay, if it's the best goddamn steak you've ever had, it doesn't need no fluff. It doesn't need anything else. It's the best steak ever.
Puff pastry, famously not fluff.
It's the best. Just, if it's something crafted by a master, you don't need anything else. You have it served to you right there. And I think that makes it the best.
Okay.
There's
Very
a little
compelling.
too much in the opera. You have all these, oh, okay, there's this and this and that and that. You almost don't even know where to start, where you want to dig in, because there's just, your brain is trying to compute, wait, there's just so many options here. And you could say, wow, I have so many options, that's great. But at the same time, there's not cohesive flair, a single pizzazz to this dish that you have that complements it. It's everyone trying to compete to be the star of the dish.
I disagree. And you know why I disagree? It's because with a movie, you don't need to know where to start, because the movie's going to tell you where to start, because it's a linear thing. You don't get to choose unless you're, fucking Bandersnatch on Netflix. You don't get to choose your own adventure. Christopher McQuarrie is taking his presumably calloused but firm hands and guiding you through this experience with Ethan, with Benji, with this new character, Ilsa, who, again, may I mention, is one of the most gorgeous people in the planet, and in the most beautifully tailored yellow dress.
Have you seen her ride a motorcycle? Whoa!
It's pretty incredible, but there's nothing like that shot where she puts her leg up onto the tower seat and props the gun up against it to set the sight. I can see Dylan smiling. I know he knows exactly the shot.
This is what I mean.
Who doesn't?
He knows how to play to the strengths, appeal to the judges.
Yes, I do.
I would say that there's still, in terms of simplicity, in terms of what's like how to follow the action sequence, I think the Paris scene is a little more easy to follow versus the opera scene. I think there's a lot going on in the opera scene. I also don't think it's that satisfying as a scene. I mean, it's pretty satisfying, but compared to the selection here, I think the payoff for that scene you kind of get a little later in the movie when you kind of get some of those other scenes.
That's maybe fair. Here's two things that I would like to point out. I think we talked a lot about the characters. We've talked even about the directors. The locations are very important. I think that the Paris chase uses Paris incredibly well. However, I think that the actual production design of the opera, the actual sets that are being used that feel like true theater sets, the incorporation of the lighting grids, of these technical elements, of the lobby, of the roof of the theater, as well as the score. I think you mix in a lot of what the incredible composer of the movie is doing with the actual operatic score. It's hard to beat the classics, and that's why those soaring elements recontextualize from the opera with what the characters are going through is incredibly interesting to me. And as great a composer as Lorne Balfe is, he cuts out a lot of that score for some admittedly sick sound design, but I don't think it hits the same.
I hear you, especially about the production design, and here's a rebuttal for that, okay? No other film was able to shut down the Arc de Triomphe to film there. Mission Impossible was allowed to shoot there for 2 hours only in the morning. John Wick 4, entirely CGI on the Arc de Triomphe.
It's not even for your scene, bro.
Huh?
It's not even for your scene. Why are you
what?
you're just finding some random argument. That's not.
I heard production design, and I'm like, wait, let me say this before I forget. No other film was able to film on the Arc de Triomphe.
Filming at the top of the Burj Khalifa, where they literally had, in order to do it, they had to like attach people to, like, in order to have people up there with the window open, they'd have to have them attached to the wall for safety purposes. I don't even think the building was done. They were shooting on like incomplete floors. So if we're talking production design, I think there's a lot to on location practicality that really levels up the scene, in my opinion.
So your praise for the production design is for the architect of the building who was building that building anyway.
No, it's the ability that you're able to shoot there in a massive building where like the logistics of figuring it out is crazy. Like how are you gonna make that happen? Where they have to literally like tie people and crew in order to make it work, and they still found a way to do it. I think that scene has the most logistical problems to overcome to figure out how to shoot. I think that definitely shows up in the scene when you watch it.
That's true. I would just say I don't need meta text. You don't need to know basically anything about even really a lot of the movie to really truly enjoy the elegance of A Night at the Opera.
I would say if you want a scene that you could just turn on to show anybody, actually I've done this. Any TV I get to test it out, I throw the Burj scene on because I think it's the most jaw-dropping, beautiful scene to watch to kind of test. So I think you can show anybody that scene, they can understand what's at stake, what's going on, what's going to happen, like what needs to happen. I think the opera scene, you can. I don't know if they recap it at the beginning. I kind of forgot, but I know the bird scene is super simple to get on board and follow along.
Hey, who doesn't love a little yellow Fiat running around Rome?
That is very true.
I do genuinely love a screwball comedy in my Mission
Yeah.
Impossible. That's really
Yes,
special.
sir.
A Fiat that's got like turbo boost.
Yeah.
Come on.
With like a
And
good
then a little, like,
Like-
I guess, erectile dysfunction joke in there as well.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, that's it. I love my scene. That's it.
Okay, it seems it does seem like things are fizzling out. So we can just dive into the Q&A portion because I definitely have some questions since
I have many.
I have a more incomplete understanding of everyone's arguments.
I'll let you go
but
first, Ryan.
I do want to continue with that thread we began at the restart, which was, what do you think is the number one counter argument against your selection? Then how would you rebut it? So we heard Alex's. So I'm going to give everyone else the opportunity to pinpoint what they think is their scene's greatest weakness, then how you would just refute that. So Hunter, how about you?
I think maybe one of the big weaknesses to my scene is that to really get the full extent and power of it, you would have had to have seen kind of other Mission Impossibles to see the weight of it. But at the same time, you don't, because you still have in its core, you understand Ethan and his dilemma and his compass that he has. So you can still take it outside and enjoy it. But having seen the other films, it's like a cherry on top. You have a great Sunday, you're enjoying it. But if you've seen the other ones, it's like, oh my gosh, there's a little cherry. Even great. That's what I think.
All right. There you go. Kirk, how about you?
I think the strongest argument against mine is one that hasn't even been brought up yet, but I'm going to make it anyway, which is that Ethan Hunt kicks Goon 2 off of a lighting grid in the middle of an opera, like 2.5 minutes before he shoots somebody, and then they stop the show. The fact that nobody backstage notices this man falling from 40 feet doesn't make a whole lot of sense. However, I would then counter that by saying that I've been in a few plays in my life, and the phrase "the show must go on" is incredibly true. And stage managers will find a way to let nothing screw up their show unless absolutely necessary. And that line, unfortunately, is the ambassador of Austria getting shot.
All right. Very nice, very nice. And then Dennis, how about you?
I would say what I was heard for mine is that it lacks a touch of being original, and it's a little copy and paste of other scenes and other car chase scenes. But I do think that it takes the simplicity of a car chase scenes and puts it on a higher level with complex character developments and interactions, a touch of very subtle and well-written humor, and again, a yellow Fiat running around Rome being chased by a crazy French girl. Like, who doesn't like that? So, yeah, that's all I'm gonna say.
All right, wonderful. All right, Dylan, you have a few questions.
I have some rapid fire questions. I got one for each of you and then a big one for all of you. I'm going to start with Alex. At the beginning of the debate, you made an assertion that Kirk's scene, the opera in Rogue Nation, does not have a thematic through line. I want to ask, what is the thematic through line for the Burj Khalifa sequence?
Great question. That's a great question. I would say it's kind of okay, hear me out. You got to walk with me. This film notoriously has a weak villain. There's not really a strong villain. I would say the villain in this film is what goes wrong. It's the gadgets failing, the team falling apart. I would say that's the thematic through line during this. How are they going to overcome everything against them when the odds are stacked against them? How are they going to overcome it? I think that's a very, not a revolutionary theme in the franchise, but I think this scene is the one that does it the best, where you really see the odds are, the mission, if you will, is somewhat truly impossible in this scene. And I think that's the thematic through line. And I think what better scene to be the best action scene of the franchise than the scene that has the most impossible mission.
All right, I like that answer. I'm going to move on to Dennis. You also claimed in the first part of the debate that Ryan didn't hear that the entirety of Fallout had a certain amount of unbelievability to it, and then it was quickly pointed out that Dead Reckoning Part 1 as well as Dead Reckoning Part 2 are certainly some of the most unbelievable of the franchise. Do you think there is a level of hypocrisy there that might hurt your argument, or do you think that your scene stands out in the movies that you picked as being more grounded?
Well, I do agree with them that my film is also as wild as the other ones, but when you look at the basis of it, to me, the Dead Reckoning films they take a simple aspect of the genre and then they make it happen. To me, um, I don't know. There's something about Fallout that cracks me up, and it's like like you guys just wrote this like in a few hours. Like I don't know, but again, it's a personal feeling. But I don't know. I don't really much know how to explain it.
Okay, I'm going to move on to Hunter.
Mm-hmm.
Your question. You argued at some point. You were arguing in favor of simplicity in your action sequences. I think you made that point against
Kirk with the opera.
Yes, I believe that's true. You also at some point used a food analogy saying that your piece is simpler because it doesn't have all the pizzazz of a lot of. It has one big pizzazz, one snap to it, not a lot of foo-foo at some point. I think it has been argued by a couple of people here, and I think could be argued just in general that the length and the amount of cutting in your sequence between different settings adds to a very large amount of complexity in the whole Paris chase sequence. Do you think the complexity of all of the different elements of your action set piece hurt it or help it?
I think it helps it. I wouldn't necessarily say more so of complexity, but more as a little counterpiece help, a little bit, a little side dish, a little mashed potatoes, a little baked beans, a little something that helps elevate the main course. So
okay. And finally, Kirk, you called the Burj Khalifa sequence emotionally hollow, which Alex did admit was correct, but has been pointed out by many people in this debate that there is an issue with your scene of ambiguity of the characters, that a lot of the characters are new to the franchise and are also new to the movie itself in this scene. Do you think your scene avoids being emotionally hollow while having ambiguous characters?
I do, because there's a difference between ambiguity as confusion and ambiguity as intrigue.
Okay.
I think like any morally gray character is ambiguous, but so many of those, a Walter White is certainly morally gray, some would say downright evil, but is certainly intriguing in his actions and his motivations. And you are invested in trying to figure out who he is and what he's doing more than you are confused. And I would argue that the same thing holds true for Ilsa, who is introduced earlier in the movie in a great escape sequence from when Ethan is being tortured, and is her like electricity on screen, truly not just playing to you specifically, Dylan, but just the way that she commands the screen is so in line with everything that Tom Cruise and McQuarrie are doing that they had to add in the line from Ethan, "We've never met before," right? Because she fits in so naturally with everything that this franchise is going for. And so I think when she shows up in that yellow dress in the scene, she's there and she has the potential to be good, but you're not sure which way she's going to go. She's clearly a person who's on the edge. She's helping Ethan escape, but she's not escaping herself. She's staying back. So something's holding her to Solomon. And Solomon Lane is in the audience. And that he's capable of a lot of bad things because we saw him murder the record shop owner earlier. So there's just a lot of while things are in the air, they're not so far away that they're like fuzzy. Everything is very concrete, and you're just not sure where the dice is going to fall.
Okay. I like that answer. And my last question that goes to all four of you. There were quite a bit of food analogies being made throughout the debate. But my favorite very early on was Kirk in arguing against the iconography of the Burj Khalifa scene, saying that Domino's might be the most iconic pizza, but it's certainly not the best. So my question to each of you is, if you had to name either a brand or type of pizza for your action sequence, what would you pick? Let's start with Kirk. He's pondering right now.
Well, I'm thinking about this because I went to Italy this summer.
Okay.
And so when we were in Florence, we were looking for good pizza. Now, the north of Italy is not necessarily known for its pizza, but we were still determined to find something really high quality.
Sure.
And so we went over the bridge out of the old section of town, and we had found this place on Yelp that had really good reviews, and we turned the corner, and it has a line down the block. To me, that's the Burj Khalifa. It's something that's incredibly well known. It is really, really delicious. If we'd stayed in that line, it probably would have been exceptional. But, exceptional by American standards, not necessarily by Italian standards. So by action movie standards, the Burj Khalifa is incredible. But by Mission Impossible standards, maybe it's not actually the best. So we found a different place. We walked a couple extra blocks. We found a place that just had a couple tables scattered out in the alley. And it was the best pizza that I've ever had in my life. And I had 3 other pies on that trip, and none of them stacked up to that one. So something that's off the beaten path.
All right. Alex, what kind of pizza is your action sequence?
I would say mine. First off, I'm just gonna say I would say it's probably the best margarita pizza you've ever had.
Okay.
Right? Now think about this: a margarita pizza. Some others might say, "Dude, that's just a cheese pizza. That's I want toppings on it. I want this. I want that. I want all this stuff on my pizza." Get rid of it. You don't need it.
Mhm.
A margarita pizza it's the best pizza. It's the simplest. It's the purest. It's defining. It's the best pizza you could get, when done right, when done the best. So imagine the best margarita pizza you've ever had. I would say that is the Burj Khalifa sequence.
All right. Dennis, your pizza?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
I mean, I thought we were saying food, but if we're sticking to pizza, the first I was seeing is more like Nutella. I got to stick with Italian, right? Because I'm in Rome.
Sure.
It's a great sweet treat. Goes on bread, goes on pancake, crepe, whatever you want. But if it was to be a pizza, a quattro formaggi. We got 4 different cheeses. You got your usual, tomato base, but then you switch from like some stronger to softer cheeses. But at the end of the day, it's just smooth, man. It's just nice.
All right. And Hunter, last but not least, your pizza.
I'd say my pizza it's a meat lover's pizza from your local Italian restaurant.
All right.
Yeah, you have this love and care from this community restaurant. You feel this, there's a warmth, there's a niceness with these familiar characters or people that you've seen waiting your food. And then you get the pizza, and there's a bunch of nice little meat loving toppings on there. You have this amazing base pizza, and then, little sausage, that's nice. Oh, little pepperoni, that's a little kick there. It was pretty good. So you have all these little sprinkles of greatness in there that elevates the entire dish. So that's my pizza.
All right. I like this. I like that you all thought very hard about what pizza your action sequence would be and how
They took that question
feasible it was. Yeah.
so seriously. Y'all knocked it out of the park. That was
Yeah,
great.
those were all 4 fantastic answers.
Very
I was hoping
thoughtful.
I would get something like that. Ryan, do you have any other questions?
I do. I want to go back, revisiting the opening statement. Kirk, you gave 3 specific things that you were considering. Can you just reassert what those were?
Yeah, absolutely. I was going to do it again in my closing, but I can do it now. The stakes are clear, big and small. For Big Wise, we have our chasing down the syndicate, trying to figure out Solomon Lane, and then small, interpersonal, Ethan and Ilsa, Ethan and Benji, and then at the end, introducing the new dynamic of Benji and Ilsa. And then, what else did I have? Where'd it go? the game of the scene for me, which is the movable lighting grids, and then intriguing characters. That ambiguity, positive, not ambiguity, derogatory.
Gotcha. Okay, fascinating. And for anyone else that wants to jump in here at the very end, again, that idea of like the best action scene of Mission Impossible, like what does that mean to you? When you first saw that prompt, first were given this mission to join the Cinema Showdown, what was what immediately jumped into your head of like, oh yeah, best? That must mean blank. And then how your selection is what fills that blank the best.
I'll hop in real quick. I thought of a couple things. I thought, what shaped the franchise? What's definitive? What's gonna set? You mentioned earlier, Ryan, that nobody picked anything from before Macquarie, and I think there's a reason because ever since this moment when this scene came, the franchise decided to go in this entirely different trajectory, and I think ever since then they've been chasing how to top this. And I think that's what makes this one the best for just overall, because it's setting the standard. And beyond that, I go further, okay, you set the standard, but did you maintain the standard? And I think it does. It's the most tense, an action scene needs to be fun. It needs to be engaging. You need to understand the stakes. I think the stakes here are super clear to understand. I think the tension is good. I think the things that go wrong really add to it. And I would say, yeah, I think those for all those reasons, that's why when I heard the question, I went, yeah, this has got to be the best one.
All right.
I think for me, I'd say layers. So, on top of just what we've come to expect as in a great action set piece and practical stunts, how can we make it more hitting? How can we add some depth to it? Layers. And how do we do that? Through characters and through Ethan Hunt. And that's what we have with mine. And that's why I was like, oh, okay, it's got to be this one, because you have the amazing car chase and just Tom Cruise swerving around in Paris, just crazy. But then you have those moments of what is Ethan Hunt? Who is Ethan Hunt? So that's just what jumped to my mind.
Gotcha. Dennis?
I just was trying to think of anything from Death Reckoning Part 1.
Again, I figured Dead Reckoning was going to be your pick based on all our conversations about it, so I'm not surprised there.
Yep.
But okay. Yeah, I think that's all the questions that I have. Again, unfortunately, I have an incomplete portrait of, the whole open debate, but I think I have enough information. And Dylan, of course, you listened to everything. So now we're going to deliberate with you guys here. That's how we do it. We just talk out loud of what we thought stuck out, what were good points, what weren't good points, good rebuttals, all that. So Dylan, what was the stuff that stuck out to you and the portion that I missed? What were some like heavy hitters that you're like, oh yeah, that was a good point, that moved them up on the rankings?
It was a bit hard to concentrate because I was texting you at the same time trying to sort out your technical difficulties. But I took quite a bit of notes. There were a lot of shots being made at one another, which was very enjoyable for me to watch. And I was taking a lot of notes on those shots. There were a couple of hypocritical moments. There were a couple of sort of arguments that I didn't think were the best. I'll just go one by one down the list. The notes I have for Hunter. I had Dennis claiming that there was an unbelievability to Fallout in general, which I elaborated in the question portion, that I thought could probably extend to all of these movies to a certain degree and whatnot. And so I wasn't sure how strong of an argument that was going to be. Hunter's biggest argument in his favor was the big moral dilemmas that Ethan Hunt kind of has to focus on in this action sequence, as opposed to other films maybe having one moral dilemma at most. He's arguing that this one has several major moral dilemmas that he has to combat against. Not only is he trying to save lives.
Just a pause real quick, just ask a question. Is the Paris chase, that's when Tom Cruise runs across, Ilsa Regeversen on the motorcycle?
Yeah.
And then he runs through her, basically.
Yes.
Drives through her? Yeah. Great.
He
Did
has
that
that
ever get
moral.
mentioned? Did that get described at
He
all
did,
in the
yes, absolutely.
debate?
He
Okay.
was listed that as a moral dilemma. He listed the police officer catching them as a moral dilemma, and he listed the entire starting of the sequence itself, where he just launches the car into the river to avoid a firefight with innocent police officers as the main branch of that moral dilemma, is kind of kicking it off. So he was quoting like this action sequence as being like the reason it is impossible is because of all these moral dilemmas that Ethan Hunt is coming up against. Because obviously the setup to the scene is they could easily just extract Solomon Lane by just shooting a bunch of cops and taking him, and he has to combat that with his ethics and his moral code, and then more and more things kind of arise that he has to fight against. And then Kirk claimed against Hunter that there were bad transitions in the sequence, that it kind of was jarring when the police officer showed up. I didn't know if that was a strong argument from Kirk. I'm not gonna lie. On my opinion, I think he was just hunting. I don't think he truly believes it. I think he was hunting. He was fishing there for a minute.
Hey,
Because
sometimes you got to do that.
we've seen all these movies. I've seen this movie, and I personally don't believe that is too hard of a transition to go from 3 minutes packed action to a moment of a moral dilemma for the character to have briefly, and then back to pack action. I think it transitions quite smoothly, and I think Kirk would agree with me. For Alex, I wrote that Kirk called it emotionally hollow, which Alex did admit to. That the scene is very surface level. A lot of his arguments were about the iconography of the Burj Khalifa sequence, which was kind of a big plus in his favor. That it is so well known and well beloved that it is like. I mean, he even said that this is a scene that he puts on his television to kind of test and see the quality of the television, of how well it's shot and how great it looks. And he just talked about how there's humor in it, with it ending with Benji kind of walking into the room with Tom Cruise saying no shit when he's up on the side of the building, with the glove being on the side. And Kirk did attack it a little bit more by saying that everything that was cutting away from Tom Cruise was kind of detracting from the sequence, that all of the exploits of the surrounding members of the crew, with them changing the numbers to the hotel rooms, and kind of Benji just being kind of annoying, and Jeremy Renner giving a countdown.
Is that part of the sequence? Is that part of that?
I think if it's
it's cross-cutting between.
Yeah,
Tom Cruise
it is
building
cross-cutting. Yeah,
okay.
Which is what was Kirk's argument, was that it was kind of detracting from the action itself of Tom Cruise trying to climb the building. But Alex does admit that it is. He's saying that it is intriguing to him, but he can understand why it wouldn't be intriguing to others. But that the images that you get as a result of the sequence of Tom Cruise running on the building and jumping into the window, and the glove jumping out of the window in general, like there's just so many iconic images here that it stands leagues above all the rest of the of all the rest of everything else. And he also says that it is more simplistic. He calls it a great meal. Kirk called it just an entree with no sides.
Margarita pizza. Yeah, I went through many forms of food comparisons.
Indeed.
What about what's the strongest in Kirk's favor, and then the biggest hit against it, do you think?
For Kirk, let me see here. He avoided unnecessary arguments about logistics. He avoided falling into the pitfalls of talking about how complicated it would be to set up this shot and how to do all this and this and that, which I liked in his arguments. I liked that he focused more on the result of the action sequence itself and the impact that it had on him as a viewer personally. Lots of food analogies from Kirk is what I wrote down. I had Alex claiming that there's no thematic through line, which I don't think Kirk had a very, very strong response to, but I did like his response to my question, where he talked about how he felt that the fact that the characters are ambiguous does not make it any less emotionally interesting, and that you can find a lot of intrigue as a result of that. Of course, we go back to Kirk's whole argument of the three pillars being intrigue, fun, and stakes, and I think that whole argument kind of stands up very strongly, not just for this one, for all of these entries, but I think the fact that he kind of zeroed in on that is a very strong point for Kirk to make in terms of what I think makes for a successful action sequence. I think he is arguing very strongly in favor of the Opera House sequence. And for Dennis, there were a lot of attacks right out the gate. Right in the very
he got swarmed immediately. I was there for that part, and I was like, "Jeez!"
Yeah, people attacking the.
Kirk jumped in to defend him, which Kirk always does in this. He'll always be like, "Not to argue for someone other than me, but let let me just set the record straight. So
Yeah, there was a lot of passion and love for the sequence coming from Dennis. He had a lot of a love for the comedy in the scene is what he brought up a lot of. Obviously, this is probably the funniest of the 4 scenes, which I think we would all collectively agree on. And I think that was a strong favor for him. He was making an argument that a lot of the established characters of not only the franchise but of this movie in general kind of collide in this sequence and are, for the first time in the movie, in this individual instance of the movie, they are finally coming together and kind of combating all at once, as opposed to the airport sequence earlier in the movie where they're all kind of separate entities against Ethan Hunt. Now they're all kind of getting in each other's way, which he found more intriguing. The stunt work, of course, he talked quite a bit about the little Fiat driving around, the Hummer going down the steps with Paris in it. There was a lot of love and a lot of passion coming from Dennis, but I think he did admit that it lacks originality and there wasn't a very strong rebuttal to that. And there were a lot of attacks about just kind of being goofy and being a little silly, and not a lot of strong rebuttal. A lot of love, but not a lot of strong rebuttal coming from Dennis is kind of what I was gathering at.
all right. So you've now heard Dylan's account of the open debate and how he thought about it, what he valued in some of your arguments, what he thought came off a little weaker. So now we're going to go into the closing statements. So you're going to have an opportunity of just 1 minute. That's all you get. But you're going to be able to make your final case for your film. So we're going to do it in the same order. So we're going to start with Hunter, then go to Alex, Kirk, and then Dennis. So again, you're free to say whatever you want. This is your time to close it out, without anyone else jumping in or coming in after you. But you just get 1 minute. So same deal. Once you start talking, I'll hit this up and then I'll give like a 15-second warning in the chat. But whenever you're ready, Hunter.
Alrighty. Okay. So my closing statement for the Paris chase sequence. It combines everything from all of the set pieces that we have kind of talked about here before. You have the chase sequence from Rome. You have some characters from the previous ones, and you have the just amazing action and stunt work from the Burj Khalifa, and then a little bit of espionage from the Opera House. But you also have the core root, which is Ethan's moral dilemma, which I keep on hammering home because that's what makes this set piece and action sequence different from the others, is you get emotional attachment to it and you learn about this character. And on top of that, of just the technical amazing aspects, being able to film on the Arc de Triomphe, the sound design of, the motorcycle, the music with the bongos, come on, the bongos. As a whole, it is a masterpiece of a section, or sequence, I should say.
All right. There we go. Great job. Mic drop there. All right. Alex, it is
All
to
right.
you.
So, best action sequence. What does the viewer get out of that? I think the Burj Khalifa gives the viewer the best action sequence. You have the most suspense scene. You have the best stunt, I think, that we have here. You have the best. If I'm sitting down watching the scene, this is the one that I think the viewer will get the most out of, the most thrills, the most suspense, the most joy, the most like what, like jaw is on the floor the whole time, even while they are putting the hotel numbers up, because it's crafted perfectly. It's exciting. Overall, I think it's perfectly crafted, perfectly put together, and I think it's the best one. Yeah, not much to say that hasn't already been said.
All right. Thank you. We'll head over to Kirk.
Yeah. I think it boils down to 3 things. It's what I started with. It's the stakes, it's the intrigue, and it's the fun. And this sequence and this movie has it in spades. I think a theme for this scene and a theme for the movie is choice. It's something that's get elaborated on later in the sequence or in the series. But Ethan's choices, when he goes rogue, when he sticks to his guns, that's what makes the most impact. He chooses to shoot the ambassador. He chooses to go rogue at the beginning of the movie. He chooses to memorize and get rid of the disc at the end of the movie. It's all a through line that works for the scene and for the movie as a whole. And also, I think the bongos are better in Fallout in the London foot chase than they are in the Paris chase. So there's that.
All right. Closing out there, too. You had 20 seconds left. All right.
He's succinct.
Yeah, they want to just get in, get out, apparently. All right, then, Dennis, it's to you whenever you're ready.
Yeah, so I chose Rome because Dead Reckoning Part 1 was really the movie of the franchise that made me feel the most emotions, and that scene was part of them. It's based on a very grounded idea, and then it elevates the genre in a very to a very high standard and very high level. And it's easily my favorite movie of the franchise, and I come back to that scene a lot. So simple as that.
All right, there we go. We got shorter and shorter with the closing statements each time. All right, so that finishes it off. So, Dylan, shall we put down our rankings? And then how do you want to do it? Do you want to tally it up in our little chat and then reveal?
Yeah, do you have the script up?
Oh, yeah, that's a good idea. We'll do that. But our contestants, how are you guys feeling now that it's your work is over? Now you're just waiting on judgment. But how do you feel?
This was so much fun. I had so much fun.
Yeah.
Had a ton of fun.
Yeah.
I'll come back.
Will anything I say now affect your ranking?
No.
Okay,
No,
sweet.
But what
I agree. There's not a bad cut in the entirety of Fallout. That movie is seamless. Eddie Hamilton should have won an Oscar.
Yeah.
That sequence rocks.
He was like, he didn't believe it.
And he's right.
Do you see my totals, Ryan?
Yes. I'm going to go ahead and co-sign that. I think that's...
You agree 100%? We're in complete agreement?
Yep.
Amazing.
So
we have no debate over to the order of the arguments here. It is a complete consensus. So Ryan, you want to list them off in reverse order?
Yeah. So in fourth place, we have the Rome Chase from Dead Reckoning. So I love, again, the way you started out when I was here, the opening thing, you talked about the cat and mouse chase, how that's represented.
I think it was a very good start.
Genre. It was a great start. You just needed to, hammer home those points more.
I think the rebuttals and the counterpoints needed to be strong because there's a lot of attacks on your scene. And I think if you had come out stronger with the defense, I think I would have been more in your favor.
Mm-hmm. So that puts you down in fourth. In third place, we have the Paris chase from Fallout. So Hunter, you did
this is really
did a great job. And
stop the steal.
Again, Kirk had an edge because he knows a little bit more about like our preferences, stuff like that. My whole thing, Dylan, of course, knows on the show, character and theme are like the biggest things for me. And so you were hammering home the character portions. That's why I asked. And the thing,
very
did
good
you bring up that he drives through Ilsa Faust? Because we see in Rogue Nation, he doesn't do that. He can't do it. In this one, he's like, he did it. And I'm like, that's such an awesome choice. Like that makes that scene 1,000 times better. And then you brought up the police thing at the end. So yeah, bringing up his moral compass, how this scene, while awesome on just the action front, again, like perfectly edited, it's just perfectly constructed, but it has character depth to it. So that helps elevate it for sure. But then, yeah, I just think, I don't know, it felt like at least the portions that I were here, you weren't able to express like the most points. You probably had, like, I think in speaking order, you were probably third as well, like the amount of time you were able to talk.
Yeah.
So you probably weren't able to flesh out as many points.
I was also wishing for more of like the specifics of the scene. Like Kirk and Alex are both very passionate about, like Alex specifically talking about the way that the gloves are slapping on the side of the Burj Khalifa, the danger that's involved in that sequence, the running down, the tying the hose around him and crashing open the window. And then Kirk was very passionate about the moving lights element of the action set piece, the added intrigue of having not one but two assassins that Ethan Hunt has to choose between, the humor that was in that scene. And I would have liked to hear more about what about the action itself was more intriguing for you about there was a lot of talk of the underwater stuff, which I appreciated quite a bit, and how much you loved all of the scenes with Benji underwater with Solomon Lane. But I would have liked to hear more about like that motorcycle chase that is at the tail end of that sequence, and a little more about kind of like why that is so like exciting, and why the action itself pushes it even farther, But Alex and Kirk were very passionate about the action that was at the forefront of their argument. But it was smart to put character up there because Ryan is a big character guy. This is true.
100%. All right, so we're down to our final two. Kirk
This was
and
tough.
Alex. Again,
this was a very tough thing for me. I really liked Alex's response to my question when I asked about the thematic through line. I really liked, like, without hesitation, bringing up the everything going wrong and all the gadgets breaking. It was a really, really, really smart through line to add in there. It definitely like shines brightly in the Burj Khalifa sequence. The mask breaking down, the numbers for the doors not working properly.
Can I say about that? Because you said that, Alex, and it like clicked into place for me, which is because of Kirk in our Mission Impossible episode earlier this summer. Kirk talked about that. He was like, that's why this is so great. Everything goes wrong in the movie. So when you said it's all about things going wrong and this like epitomizes that, I'm like,
except the door reprogrammer, that works perfectly fine.
That does work fine.
It was a very smart through line to come up with, right out of the gate, right out of there. And Kirk, I mean, just so much passion in your argument here, in your argumenting style. So much passion for this opera sequence, so much love for Ilsa Faust, the character in that yellow dress, so much love for the general structure of the scene itself with the moving set pieces inherent in the set itself, and the way that Tom Cruise and the other actors kind of interact with that set and the stakes that are there. And then propping your argument up on those three pillars was also a very strong way to kind of create that through line in your argument, not just the through line in your scene.
Which, again, another thing about me that certainly Kirk knows from our Cinema Showdowns in the past. I love debate. I love argumentation. And having a line of reasoning like that, setting up at the beginning your definition of best action sequence, and then giving us your specific points on how your scene fulfills that, basically. That's perfect, okay? That, your English teachers, I'm sure, were very proud with all your argumentative essays.
I got my 3 ducks in a row, baby.
Yeah, you did.
Absolutely. I will say, though, I'm sad that you didn't bring up, Vienna, the opera house that I had visited at some point. So you can use that.
That's
I went to Europe. I think I sent you a picture or some pictures of possible. You should have played on that. Hunter, you should have played on that for Paris as well.
I don't know if you could hear me.
That's true. But yeah, so that just really well done. Again, like establishing your arguments and then continually going back to it with the claims. And then I could tell right out of the gate, you were attacking the Burj Khalifa very heavily early on because you knew that was the strongest competitor. Yep. So again, you just play the game very well. So yeah. But all right, we are going to crown the victor. So it is the opera scene from Rogue Nation. Kirk,
let's go, baby.
You got the W.
Very, very strong argument from Kirk. I think going into this, that probably would have been close to the bottom for me. If I had to just blind pick an action sequence that I thought was the best action sequence, that would probably be close to the bottom. I love Rogue Nation. It's my second favorite in the franchise. But that sequence specifically is not one that I think I would have put above the Burj Khalifa or the Paris sequence in Fallout because, like you said, there's not a scene in Fallout that is amiss. The whole thing is flawless. Yeah. So the fact that I put the Fallout argument into third, is a very strong, indicator that your argument was flawless, Kirk. It was very, very good. Very, very strong competitor here in this game. And very good rebuttals, very good arguments, very good attacks. Very good food analogies. Certainly killing it in a lot of aspects because this would not have made the top 5 best action sequences if I was making this argument. Me personally, I would have picked the helicopter chase at the end of Fallout. Ryan, if you were competing, what would you have picked?
I think that one's strong, but I think we both had said previously we're like the Burj Khalifa scene is probably what you would pick to like argue this. Yeah. And we've been on record, like I think in our thing, we were talking about, the Paris chase is way better than the Rogue Nation chase, because you're trying to argue that. You're like, it's incredible, and we're like, yeah, it's really good, but the Paris chase is like unmatched.
Yeah.
And then again with the Burj Khalifa, we're like, that is just
It's
it is
iconic.
the iconic moment of the entire franchise. And you
Certainly.
did a great job defending it, Alex. Like,
Yeah.
again, it was very close. It's just Kirk had everything dialed perfectly for his.
Hey, you
his
lose
argument.
enough of these things, you start to figure them out.
This is your
You got
your
the
first
practice.
victory.
fierce
You got there.
competitor.
Victory.
You nailed it.
Good
So-
job, Kirk.
And you always pick the one that's not the most obvious, because actually all of you, I picked out the names to see who would get first pick, because I didn't want someone to pick the same thing, but you all chose different ones without even seeing what the other options were.
Yeah,
So-
not just different action set pieces, but different movies in general. There was no
Yeah,
overlap in
true.
films at all.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So it was very cool. But yeah, great job, guys. That was amazing.
It was very enjoyable.
Y'all should
It
be
was very
super
fun.
proud of yourselves.
Well done, everyone.
Had so much fun.
Yeah.
That was great.
So yeah, we'll definitely have to bring y'all back in the future for more cinema showdowns, because y'all rocked it. And then also judging as well. Y'all could be
Oh, yeah.
potential
Yeah.
judges.
Dude, that would be
Yeah.
fun.
Dylan
That
and
would
I
be
like to throw our hats in the ring every now and then. So
It's hard to beat Ryan. It's tough. He's a bit of a prick in the debates, man.
I'm not. Look, I just do.
He's
what needs
ruthless,
to be done,
man. You
okay?
thought Kirk was making a strong argument. You should see Ryan when he really wants to win. It's
So
fucking
do you. Dylan
hard.
goes really hard in these too.
I do,
That's what I'm saying,
but
like,
I've never gone against Ryan. That would
it's
be-
tough, man. It's
Yeah.
hard.
we got to. We haven't? Didn't we?
I don't think so, because you were the judge for.
Battle of the Bond, didn't we?
Oh, were you arguing? Casino.
Ryan, I thought you were. I thought
No,
you
you
were
were
the
the
judge on that,
judge.
Ryan.
I was.
Or was
Yeah,
Ryan
you-
Mayers the judge?
I think it was
No, 'cause-
Mayers, right?
Oh, did you pick
Oh, so
Skyfall?
you were Skyfall.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was
that's why
Ryan
I
Mayers was
lost.
Skyfall.
Dang,
Yeah,
so did I.
No, I think
Yeah.
that was my first, because I did that one, and then the DCU one, and then
dude, the
Just-
DCU one was tough.
that one was crazy.
Yeah, because
That
they're
one we
all
had three
dog shit.
judges. But yeah, we'll see if there's any other like franchises or certain just like famous debates, in film communities and whatnot. We like to try and convert those into cinema showdowns. So if y'all have any ideas for those too, let us know. But yeah, we'll definitely want to get you on another one of these at some point. But yeah, that's about it.
Thank you guys for coming out. I really appreciate it.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Thanks for having
Thank
us.
you for having me.
Yeah, thanks, guys.
Yeah.
Happy to be here.
Next time will have to be something not Mission Impossible related, because this is the third one in a row.
Yeah, you got to get Kirk on for something else.
Yeah.
We'll find something.
That's all the time we have. If you'd like to give your thoughts on the show, you can email us at theboxofficeshowpod@gmail.com.
Our main title theme for the show is Sundown by Joseph McDade.
If you like the show, please give us 5 stars on whatever podcast I'm listening to, and be sure to tune in next week. Have a great rest of your day.